Hey, good Saturday afternoon. 540-0580 is our talk line number. So if you want to chime in, just call. Put you on the air, 540-0580. I want to thank everybody who came out last week for our live show in Lancaster. We did that at the Caldwell Banker Building, 1000 North Prince Street, as you know. And everybody had hot dogs and a good time. So I just want to thank everybody who came. It was really great to meet some of you. I'll see some of you again, and we'll do some more remotes like that so that we can meet more of you in different locations. So if you have an idea of where you'd like us to be, let us know. And, of course, I want to remind you, if you've got a real estate need, you should contact Caldwell Banker Select Professionals. They service all central Pennsylvania, and you want to know how to get a hold of them, let me know. But we're going to have Paul Chase, one of their realtors, on a little later this hour to tell us a little bit about what's going on in the real estate market and talk a little bit more about short sales, something that he's a specialist in. Anyhow, what else did I want to tell you? Have you seen this? Kim Kardashian is suing Old Navy, which is essentially the Gap, I guess, for putting up a model who looks like her. And basically what they're saying is that this model looks similar enough to her that it merits a lawsuit. I guess the woman's name is Milano. Interesting thing for the model is, I guess if a court finds that she looks so much like Kim Kardashian that she can't model, does that kill her modeling career? Now, I've studied both of their pictures extensively in the name of legal research, and I can see a lot of dissimilarities. I can see that they're both brunette, they're both fairly good-looking, but I can tell them apart anyhow. 540-0580 if you want to weigh in and talk about the law. I'm supposed to be starting a jury trial coming up tomorrow. Tomorrow's Sunday. I'm a day ahead. Monday. I know Vinny's prepping for one right now. I just talked to him a little bit ago. He was working away with the client and getting ready. And I did my prep already, and I'll be doing a little more prep, I guess, tomorrow evening. But I'm doing a marijuana trial, and the short answer, Shane, is my poor guy grew a marijuana plant, and he didn't want to buy marijuana on the market, so he grew this marijuana plant, and now they've charged him with felony manufacture. So let there be a lesson out there, which is if you want to avoid the drug industry, you just can't do drugs at all. But if you think you're going to do yourself a favor and make the world safer and not support narco-terrorism by buying your marijuana from Mexican drug lords or Al-Qaeda and back-funding crime, and you just think, well, what I'll do is I'll just plant this little seed in my garden and grow my own little homemade marijuana plant. If you want to talk about this, it's 540-0580. You're now guilty not only of possession of marijuana, but because you're growing the plant, the government will argue that you're guilty of the manufacture portion of the felony statute. So imagine this. If you go and you buy some marijuana and smoke it, you've committed a misdemeanor, but you've supported narco-terrorism. On the other hand, if you grow your own plant, chop it up, and use it strictly for your personal use, a jury can convict you of manufacture, and the government can charge you with that. And the judge is going to instruct the jury that growing a pot plant meets the definition of manufacture. I'm going to be arguing intent, and I'm hoping that my jury will understand that this poor guy just wanted some pot for his own use. But what do you do? 540-0580. If you have a legal question, if you don't know me, I'm a lawyer here in the mid-state. I answer people's legal questions here on the air. Obviously, we don't go into super detail, and if it's something that's sensitive, we'll dance around that and maybe talk off the air about the things that we need to know. And the most important thing to remember with legal problems, it's sort of like a roofing issue. You know, you look up there and the shingle looks like it's coming up, but you're not sure what should I do. You know, should I call somebody or wait? Well, the answer is if you think you have a legal issue, it doesn't hurt to run it by a lawyer. I quite frequently tell people, no, you don't need to worry about that. Just forget about it. It's not really a big deal. Or thanks for giving me an update or apprising me what's going on. If it does explode or become a real legal issue, you know, I've got my notes here. I've put them in my computer, and if you call in, I'll know what you're talking about right away. But you don't need me. And quite often those things are handled with a 10-minute or less phone conversation where I can determine you don't need a lawyer yet or at all. On the other hand, I've a lot of times, if someone had just come to me a little bit sooner and sat down with me and talked over things, I could have saved them thousands and thousands in legal fees simply by giving a little direction on the front end. And so I strongly urge, if you think you have a legal problem, you know, just run it by me. 540-0580. Frost.
Yes, thank you.
What's up, brother?
Well, here we go. Now, here's a trial. Perfect example. And, yeah, now I could see, when people think, oh, they watch the news and that, oh, my relatives smoke pot, they're supporting the Mexican cartels, that's garbage talk. That talk, see, half-truths are not truths. Some of that's true. It depends on where you live in the country. But most marijuana, especially anybody under 30, they're smoking the stuff called kind. And that is grown by people right here in the United States because it is a high-grade marijuana. And on average, in the Northeast, nothing's coming from a drug cartel. The street weed is. But here, this young man now has to spend money on you.
Right.
And the court system has to spend my tax money prosecuting this guy. And I just don't see why in other states people are growing marijuana right now for medical marijuana dispensaries, but you cross into Pennsylvania and now you're a felon. Well, see, explain under the Constitution how that works, how they get away with that.
Well, each state has the right to criminalize things differently. Remember, we're a federal republic. But here's my big issue. They'll never let me on a jury. But what juries need to do, I mean, in my estimation, if the citizenry is going to do what it needs to do through the jury function, it can just start acquitting people left and right, and then the government would stop bringing these. The problem is most jurors get in there and they're like, well, I don't think it's a big deal, but the judge says that it meets the definition of manufacturer, so we probably should convict him because we took an oath to follow the law. Well, guess what they never tell the jury? They never tell them you're allowed to give whatever verdict you want, and you can't get in trouble for it, and it doesn't matter. It's called jury nullification.
Thank you. See, I tried bringing that up when everybody lost their mind over that girl. This I've been bringing up for as long as I've called radio shows since 2000. You hit the nail on the head, and you are an attorney saying it. A jury has the right to decide how they feel at that moment about that case. And when the juries are charged by my older half brother got a whole new retrial years ago, man, and it was a big time deal in Pennsylvania. And part of it was on the charging of the jury by the judge. They almost like put them in a guilt situation where you must do what the prosecutor said. No, and how did you just say it? What's the correct term again?
Well, they call it jury nullification. But
exactly.
And here's my issue with it. My issue with it is historically that was allowed. In other words, the original juries, when they first created, when our country was first founded, got to pass on both the law and the facts. And then in a big steal of power from the people, the government now tells juries, well, the judge decides the law and you decide the facts, and that's the way it is. But if a juror were to raise their hand and say, now, Judge, correct me if I'm wrong, do I have the power to vote any way I choose? Am I allowed to nullify or not? And if the judge is put on the coals, so to speak, he's going to have to say, yeah. He can lie, I guess, but he's going to have to say, yeah, and the law recognizes that juries can nullify, but for some reason we're scared to death to tell them about it.
Exactly, and I don't see how, when a judge charges a jury, that's always left out.
Oh, they leave it out intentionally, and trust me, if I try to bring it up in front of a jury, they're going to take me out in handcuffs.
Well, yeah, you're in contempt. No, I watched it. I've watched it with just personal friends, family members throughout the years. There's the steps that you can lead that jury, just like the prosecutor's leading that jury. It's a play, and you have a beginning, and you have a middle, and you have the end. And it seems at the end, that's where the fix is. And it's a shame it had to come up with a murder case and everything, But like you said, this is where people need to stand up if they really think that we're wasting time on marijuana. Because when you look at these other states, I mean, you go to Denver right now. Denver 3 years ago was broke. Now Denver has money.
Frost, can you hold with me through the break?
Sure, I can hold.
540-058, and when we get back, we'll keep answering your legal questions. Hey, answering your legal questions on this somewhat warm Saturday afternoon. 540-0580. Call in here. We'll answer your question here on the air. I'm talking with Frost here about Oh, well, we were talking about marijuana and jury nullification. And I want to be clear for us. I don't have a position on marijuana. What I mean by that, and I've talked about this with Bob Durgan before. If you want to make alcohol illegal and you want to make marijuana illegal and you want to do whatever you want to make illegal, that's the state's function in the health and welfare department. On the other hand, if you're going to be intellectually honest, if you're going to make one intoxicating substance legal, you might as well make most or all of them legal. I just don't think that there's a great argument to make marijuana illegal and booze legal, except that one's got a really good lobby and one's doesn't have the entrenched lobby yet, right?
Well, and the one lobbying, besides lobbying Congress, they also lobby against, they fund anti-marijuana groups because it's proven with records now. And that's my thing, how we could wrap this up. What people don't understand is that if someone can't afford an excellent attorney like yourself, they get arrested. Now, it's just marijuana. And when the officials, state officials are always interviewed, they're like, well, see, marijuana now in our county, it's more just handled with this and that. See, that fudges the answer. See, the marijuana, an ounce or less, you can usually, with a halfway decent attorney, get that dropped to a disorderly conduct fine, and that'll be the end of it. You know, there's a lot of things the public doesn't realize what goes on a weekly basis. The problem is the marijuana pipe. Oh, they had rolling papers and a marijuana pipe. Well, now that's a year probation.
Right.
That can be up to now their life now. That citizen, that guy, 35, 2 kids, great job. Guess what? Say he goes to change jobs 3-4 years down the road. That will come up on checks because now personnel people hit Google, they hit the Internet, they might glance at your application, but they're more glancing at the computer screen than they are the application because that's just the new world we live in. And see, because and I'm for that because, hey, we live in a free country. That's what you put up with. But the problem is now that application gets put off to the side to take the next 50 because the jobs are so tight. So that individual is getting really under the Sixth Amendment, under excessive fines, and I'm pretty sure it's the Sixth Amendment where we're treating people for marijuana really, really, we're almost like putting them against their constitutional rights. Where is it this excessive? Do we really? Because what happens is it's the charge is just a fine, it's just this, but it stays on the record. It costs them jobs, but other people, it's not happening to. And that argument about make all drugs legal, we need to stop. We need to have men sit down and have a good discussion. Crack and heroin destroys cities. It doesn't just destroy that person or the family. It destroys the city. So to me, that is a different topic. But the marijuana, come on, you're a lawyer. I'm sure this guy's paying until this is all said and done. And if they find him not guilty on the marijuana, but guilty of the paraphernalia, you just said up to a year probation.
Yeah, my real problem is because you're growing a pot plant for your own personal use, it becomes a felony distribution charge. So he gets treated like a drug dealer because he grew his own pot plant.
Now, that DA couldn't sit down when they always have the powwows. I know that's not the correct term, but I apologize.
Hey, listen.
But, there's give and take there. So they're playing hardball with this guy.
No, it's the current cycle in central Pennsylvania right now is everybody wants their drug felonies. So if you got a guy with a drug felony, they'll offer you probation. If you can find an obvious problem with the case, like a search and seizure issue, you might get the misdemeanor. But for the most part, if you're charged with a drug felony in central Pennsylvania right now, these DAs are not moving off of them.
Well, they ran on Law and Order, see, and that's what gets my goat. Okay, if you're going to run on Law and Order, well, let's start running violent crime consecutive sentences. You know, the guy was charged with 4 different counts. Well, I see the marijuana guy over here. He's charged. He gets found guilty in certain counties. The smaller ones in Pennsylvania are a lot harder than the bigger ones.
Oh, yeah.
And so now you're in the small county. So you get charged on this count, and you get the paraphernalia, run consecutive. Okay, now let's look at the cases for the next month. Violent crimes. Well, there was 3-4 charges, convictions of, yes. Well, why didn't you run them all consecutive? See, if you're going to run on Law and Order, let's start with the OK at the shootout, like the shootout at the OK Corral people. Start running if somebody doesn't kill someone, they're not getting 30 years. No. See, and that's where we were mad at the legislature. You know, it's like if you're shooting at the cops and you can only get 5 years, they're going to keep shooting at the cops.
The problem is
marijuana people and give them 3-4 years probation stacked on nonviolent crime. Go ahead.
And that's been thanks for letting me talk during my own show. No, but part of the problem has been that historically the legislature steps in and creates mandatories, and they create this one-size-fits-all paddle. And back when they were worried about, and you made a good point, like crack destroyed cities back in the 80s, right? So we rolled in with all these harsh drug sentencing laws that make no distinction between what drug you're using, what quantity you're using, and what your actual involvement is. And so I'll give you a good example. If you are a young woman, 19 years of age, at the Dickinson College in Carlisle, and I'm your skeezy local boyfriend that you met at the bar downtown, and I say, hey, I got to drop this pot off here at my buddy's house on the way back. I'll take you back up to the school, sweetie. Just run it into his house. She becomes an accessory. She's now guilty of a drug delivery in a school zone and faces a 2-year mandatory. Now, the reality is there's no reason that girl needs a 2-year mandatory because we probably find out that, it's the first thing she's ever done. It's criminal. It's stupid. And I know some idiot out there be like, well, she did the crime. She should do the time. But why give her 2 years in jail on a school zone mandatory, because a college is a school zone? Give the creepy guy 2 years. I don't care. But nonetheless, they're not equally situated folks. And that mandatory structure means that we throw her in a state prison for 2 years and just completely destroy her viability. Unless, like you said, she gets a good lawyer and we get all the right things lined up with all the right people and somehow get her out of her jam.
Thank you very much for having the time. I got to get back to work.
All right, brother. Take care.
Bye-bye.
540-058 if you want to weigh in on crime, punishment, or anything legal. You want to get an answer about a divorce question that's burning in your mind. Maybe you've had a car accident or other personal injury you want to know about. We've got a lot of lawyers in the office. I've got Drew Deo. I've got Steve Snyder. Steve's joined us recently here in July, and he's doing a lot of work with land use and business litigation. And the other interesting area that he's into is this education law. So if you go to romingerlaw.com, you can read a thing he wrote about IEPs for children and school children. So if you have a special needs kid, and I know we just did a special needs trust for somebody as well. So if you have any of those needs, we've got Steve there. Vinny does a lot of trial work like I do. He's got his hands in a few different things. Rob Culling, I know, is busy doing a lot of adoptions. So, whatever you need, we've got a good team assembled, and we're available around the mid-state. And I want to make sure you guys know that. Basically, if you can hear this broadcast, we can meet with you probably pretty close to where you live. So it's pretty exciting that we've been able to do that. 540-0580. John, you're on the air.
Yes, Carl. Thank you for taking my call. My son was recently ticketed. They pulled the car over, which he had just got in 5 minutes before that, so had no idea what was in it. They found a pipe in it in the back seat, and they gave everybody in the car a ticket. And he was not aware of it. He had just gotten in 5 minutes ago. When we got to court, they said, well, because I forget what they called it, but because he was in that car with that, he was guilty. The DJ did dismiss it, but he said he could have gone either way on it.
Huh. So they convicted him on the theory that he was in the car.
They could have. They let him off. I mean, he presented a good case by himself.
What was the theory of why he was guilty? What did the government argue?
It was. I wrote it down and I have it at home. I'm sorry, I'm in the car.
It's okay.
And the police officer tried to negotiate with me before that, and he said, "Are you aware of this consequential possession or in close proximity possession?" And I said, "No." He says, "Well, just because he was in the car and we found that in the car, we can ticket him."
It's a concept called constructive possession, and let me explain it to you. It's what we call legal fiction, but it's a necessary legal fiction. So, for instance, my cell phone, okay?
Uh-huh.
If it's in my hand, I have it in my actual physical possession. But we all agree that I still possess it if I lock it up in my car or keep it in my bedroom. And so we look at that concept, which is that it's not literally in my physical possession. Nonetheless, it's in my control. And so constructive possession has two elements. And this is important. And here's why the two elements come into play. One is intent to control and the power to control. So you have to have both things in order to make out constructive possession. So if, for instance, you're a fisherman, and this actually happens, right, and you haul up your big shrimp boat net, and there's a bale of marijuana in it, you are in actual possession, right, of a bale of marijuana. but the law says you don't have the requisite intent to exercise control over it such that you would be guilty of legal possession, okay?
Okay.
So you can have physical possession of something but not legally have possession of it for purposes of a consequence. Now, what you do with it next would tell us, whether what your requisite intent becomes. Sometimes you might have just found the bale of marijuana and then you go, I'm going to throw this below the deck and take it in and sell it. Now you've got control and intent. But you didn't have even though you had power over the marijuana, you didn't have the intent before, okay? So we don't actually worry about whether it's physically in your possession or not in the law so much as we worry about those two elements, which are power and intent. And so another way of looking at it is, if I have some marijuana in a bag in my glove box, there I have power and I have intent. And intent can be inferred from a totality of the circumstances, okay? And that's where constructive possession gets murky. When the marijuana plant, for instance, is found in my closet, the argument is it's my closet. Therefore, it's presumptive, and a jury could convict me beyond a reasonable doubt saying, well, it was in your closet, so we believe beyond a reasonable doubt it was yours.
Let me try this another way because I don't totally understand. I get in your car. Your car has an ounce of marijuana in it.
Uh-huh.
I had no knowledge that ounce is in there, but they were telling me they could ticket me because...
Oh, they can charge you. And absolutely and I've argued this before because I had this case. My guy's in a car as a passenger. They find marijuana in the glove box. Funny you should mention this. And I say they didn't have probable cause to arrest my guy. And the judge says, no, I think it's probable cause for constructive possession because it's in an area accessible to you. Okay. And therefore, that's probable cause. Now, are you ever going to, it looks at the DA and says, I don't know if you'll ever get it beyond a reasonable doubt, though. And that would depend. I mean, if the driver takes a stand and says, no, my buddy got in the car and threw it in the glove box, whether it's true or not, that could become the basis of your conviction. But I had one with a handgun in the just like you said, in the glove box, okay? Right. And my guy's driving the car, but it's some girl's car that he just met, and the police are saying, well, it's his gun. And I'm saying, good luck. They charged him with it. And I'm like, good luck, prove it.
How long has this been around? Is this new?
No, it's been around for a long time, and it's been developed through the case law. Here's the problem. The police like to jam and I shouldn't, some officer listening is going to get mad at me for saying this, but here's what happens. I'm going to jam all these kids up, and I'm going to threaten to ticket them, or I will ticket them with possession of marijuana. Then I'm going to set them down and be like, hey, if you could help me, tell me where you buy this stuff or give me some information. So a lot of times it's a jam them and juice them, so to speak, and then see where it goes, knowing that if the kid gets an attorney or shows up in court and just looks the judge in the eye and says it's not my marijuana, most of the time it's going to get thrown out because unless somebody takes a stand and says it is their marijuana or I saw Bobby put it there, the police aren't going to get where they want to be.
Okay.
All right, John, thank you. I got to go to break.
Okay, thanks.
All right, 540-0580. See you guys after the break. Hey, welcome back, 540-0580. We're going to get Paul Chase on the phone here in a little bit. I don't know if can you dial him up by cell? Yeah, see if you can find him. 540-0580. Who's next here? Dave, you're on the air.
Hello?
Hey, Dave.
Hello?
Yeah, Dave.
Oh, okay, good. I didn't know if I heard you say Dave, but didn't know if I was the only one. Hey, my brother-in-law is having some marital issues. His wife is, excuse me, she's cheating on him. He knows it, but he hasn't literally caught her.
Right.
And obviously, it's breaking his heart, but he doesn't know what to do. She won't move out. It's destroying his kids and him. Does he have any legal recourse here?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he can file a divorce, and eventually the marital home is going to get awarded to one of them or sold. In fact, there's also something called an exclusive use petition where he could try to force her out of the house. I filed one of those years ago. I had a woman whose husband was like openly bringing other women home.
Wow.
And we filed it. We resolved it. The other guy got a lawyer, and the lawyer had to move out, But I know that the judge was looking forward to having the hearing, I think. I think he was disappointed that we didn't because I think he thought it would be like, oh, this is going to be a good one. I want to hear this guy's excuse.
Yeah. other than want to just drive his wife out.
Yeah,
but,
right.
If he were to catch her with another man, is he? I mean,
that creates adultery, and that becomes an issue that you can use as a grounds in the divorce. But the short answer is, in the modern era, you don't even need to catch anybody in adultery. And even if you do catch him in adultery, it probably won't make a huge difference in the distribution of the marital estate, although it could affect spousal support. It would not affect APL, however. So in the long run, he's probably better just if he's sure she's doing this, he might as well just preemptively move on a divorce.
Okay. Well, I mean, he still wants his marriage to work. He's a good family man, and he's got a 17-year-old daughter, a 15-year-old son. They both realize their mom is being wayward.
And the answer is, though, at some point, I mean, you can be a doormat forever, or, you can,
right.
At some point you got to give it the shove. And sometimes, he's never going to change that behavior unless he calls her to the carpet, so to speak. And sometimes finally, I can't even count on two hands. I mean, I need a lot more hands than two to count all the times over the years I filed a divorce, and then the couples have gotten back together.
Oh, I know. I went through the same thing.
And sometimes
with my ex.
It's the document itself that's the wake-up call that fixes the situation. So
right. Now, what if she were to move out, even for a day or two? If she voluntarily moves out, is he allowed to change the locks on the doors?
Yeah, but she can come right back in because it's the marital residence. So I always joke, she can change the lock, or he can change the locks, and she can change them back, and they can do that all day long, and they can beat each other's doors down. Now, the law doesn't favor violence, and it doesn't favor self-help, but at the same time, as long as you're a deed holder or it's your marital residence, you can't just throw somebody out.
Okay, because when this happened to me, my ex was cheating on me. I moved out because I this guy was coming over to the house too.
Right.
I was away for a while. I come back, and he's coming over to the house, so I moved out. And then I was told, and I'm not sure if it was an attorney or not, because it was about 10 years ago, it said, well, you voluntarily moved out, so you have no right to moving back into that house. That's not true?
That's not true. You do have the right to go. Now, here's the next thing, though. If you try to go back in, depending on how long you've been out, the other side may go to the court for exclusive use and say, he moved out voluntarily. He's been out for 3 months now, and we're at a point where it's just not practical for him to move back in.
Okay.
But if it's 2 days, 7 days, or even 3 months, you still have a legal right to move back in until it's extinguished. Now,
okay.
You ready for my practical advice is if you're in the middle of divorce, don't move back in.
Oh, yeah. And then she's actually, I've been telling him, because he's walking the same path that I walked, 10 years ago.
Right.
And I've been telling him, once you find somebody else, she doesn't think you're ever going to find anybody else. But once you do, all of a sudden she starts to get jealous. And he was actually talking with an ex-girlfriend online just as a friend, and she went through the roof. And I told him, I said, Steve, there you go, man. She's not, she's jealous too. I don't think she would like it if you started seeing somebody else, and it might turn her around. But he's got.
Yeah, and I don't know how to advise on that. That's a relationship issue. But on the
right.
on the divorce side of the house, he might want to show her he's serious about moving on with things. And the other thing is, even if you have kids, the kids aren't fooled. I mean, they know what's going on.
Oh, they do. They've caught her. She'll sit right there watching a movie with the kids, texting her boyfriend, and that kind of drives them nuts.
Right. All right, brother. It sounds like it's a little
thanks.
dysfunctional. You should do something about it.
Yeah, I've been encouraging him to do that.
All right. Well,
thank you.
take him later to a weekend appointment. You can pull up the podcast of this, and he can listen to this.
Okay.
All right, brother.
Thanks.
540-0580. Eric, you're on the air. Eric.
Yes, how you doing today? Thanks, Carl.
Good. What's going on, brother?
Hey, I've been living with this girl for 10 years,
Okay.
and the house is in her name, but I've been paying rent. I've been fixing up her house, and it's my legal residence, my driver's license, so I get all my mail there.
Okay.
And she kicks me out. Do I have any legal recourse? I called up the police, and they said, well, they have to evict you, but
Right.
then they get wishy-washy, and they tell me to leave when the police come up.
Yeah, technically, she has to evict you. The problem is you're in that danger zone where all she has to do is say, "Oh, no, he threw something at me, he threatened me. What am I going to do? You know, the next thing you know, you're getting the cuffs.
Right. Well, she's not saying that. She's just saying that I don't want him here.
Right.
So
the short answer is she has to evict you. The long answer is she may owe you for the improvements you've made, and there may be an accounting due, but we don't use a divorce law for that. We use the law of contract and partnership and unjust enrichment.
right.
And
Well,
it's not a lot of fun.
Yeah, I know it's not a lot of fun, and she made me pay cash all these years living with her,
Mm-hmm.
and she refuses to take a check from me because it'll leave a paper trail.
Yeah. So you have little proof of what you actually spent.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, maybe she's been planning this.
Yeah, I guess so. But the point that I'm making is that she changed the locks,
Right.
and I tried to get in there, and I got a lot of stuff in there. I mean, can't she just kick me out to the street?
The short answer is, like I said, I think she needs to evict you. The long answer, though, is, and again, I always counsel people, it's better to go the legal route. We can file an action for what's called replevin, which means I want my stuff back.
Right.
And get you into the house to get the stuff out. Usually what you're hoping is that she would get a lawyer, and then we can negotiate a stand-down and dissolution agreement.
Dissolution agreement, that's what it's called?
Well, yeah, I mean, that's the idea is to figure out how to dissolve your partnership, your domestic partnership that you were in. You're a cutting-edge guy.
Well, the thing is, I'm kind of broke right now, and
Right, and that's you're on the barrel now, and right, but don't use self-help. So, the short answer is there anybody who's friends with both of you can mediate it?
friends with both of us. I
Let me ask you a question. Like, let's get the two of you are going to go out and drink some beers.
Okay.
Right. Let's assume you were doing that. Or you were a friend. I mean, who would you have over to the house that you both liked?
Jesus, she's so evil. I don't know. She's not reasonable. Okay, believe me, she's not.
Right. I'm just saying. But if there was somebody who at least both of you kind of got along with, they might be able to mediate it for you. That way, you don't have to hire someone like me.
Right.
Otherwise, save up a couple paychecks and hire someone like me. All right.
Okay, so
I don't think she has to evict you, okay? She can't just kick you out, but you're always in that danger zone. If the local constabulary is saying just stay out, the problem is they're going to get miffed that you're not listening to them, and then all she has to say is, Eric's a jerk, and he threatened me, or he scares me, or whatever, and the next thing you know, the police are going to be on you, and there's going to be a PFA flying and all that good stuff.
All right, but legally she has no right
to just kick
threatening her or anything.
I've evicted a lot of boyfriends and girlfriends for people over the years, and we have to go through their tenants. We have to go through the exact same machinations we would to evict a tenant.
Okay, and now if I would hire you, I mean, how much money would it cost me for you to represent me?
Well, it depends what we'd end up doing, but you'd have to have at least about $300 to get started. Okay.
Okay, good enough. I'll call you. Trust me.
All right, brother.
Thank you.
Yeah, I don't want to. I figure he needs probably a couple letters, and we'll grease the wheels and get his stuff out of there. I got to go to break here, 540-0580. When I come back from the break, I'm going to talk to Rob and Jane, and I got Paul Chase holding, and he's going to jump on with us, Rob and Jane. Hey, welcome back, 540-0580. Paul, have I got you?
I'm here.
All right, brother. What's going on you got an update for us on the central Pennsylvania real estate market?
Well, actually, we're starting to see properties are still moving. I think that part of that's still seasonal, but we're seeing a little bit of relaxation in the credit terms, and properties are moving. A little bit lower prices than what they were, but properties are selling.
Yeah, and I know we've talked with you before about short sales. Can you explain to the listeners who probably, some probably already know this, but for folks who don't, what a short sale is and why someone might do it?
Certainly. A short sale is where a property is sold for less than the value that's owed on it. Usually that happens if somebody gets a divorce or loses their job and they can't make the mortgage payments anymore. We use a short sale to stop the foreclosure procedure and keep that foreclosure off their credit report. Recently we listed a house down in southern Franklin County where a lady's using a short sale to help mitigate the damage caused by a bankruptcy.
And so basically, if somebody's pre-bankruptcy, post-bankruptcy, or they're just behind on their mortgage, but they owe more than the house is worth, or think they might owe more than the house is worth, they might be a good candidate to sit down with someone like you for a short sale.
Definitely. And even if you're not behind in your mortgage payments, but if you can see that you're going to soon be, that's the best time to talk to a real estate professional, because as far doing a short sale before the damage gets too bad is the best time, because it protects your credit rating, which can affect your it'll affect your employment, both current and any future prospects for employment, and it goes a long way towards affecting what you pay for insurance and just the general cost of living.
Now, I've got Paul Chase here. He's a realtor and a short sale specialist. I want to encourage anybody who wants to talk about that stuff. Call 540-0580. He's with Coldwell Banker Select Professionals. Rob, you're on the air.
Yes, Carl. This is my first time calling, by the way. I enjoy listening to you.
Thanks. I got Paul with us too, so maybe he can help us with this question, because it looks like it might be.
Okay.
It looks like we might both be able to help you here.
All right. Well, unfortunately, I had to file for bankruptcy. I got a Chapter 7 granted to me about a week ago. I live in Lancaster. And I had a home that was out of the county. I can no longer afford it. To make it short, I took a reduction in job hours, not by my choosing. I lost about 12 to 16 hours a week, and my wife injured herself. She could no longer do the nursing assistant job she used to, so she's earning half because she works at a bank. So I was reluctant, but I tried to do a debt consolidation program, then I backed out of that, and due to the amount of debt that I had, I took some legal advice, and I had filed for bankruptcy, which also took into account as one of the debtors being, or the creditors being the primary mortgage, and then I had a secondary mortgage on the property as well. And in the bankruptcy discharge papers, was listed both the first mortgage amount and the second mortgage amount. And I want to add one thing here. Prior to me filing bankruptcy, which was last March of this year, I tried to get a valuation of the property, which I was told was probably worth around $100,000 less than, maybe even more than that, of what it was appraised for originally, back in 2006. So I was denied 3 times for a refinance on the first mortgage, and since it was worth a lot less than what I owed on the original note, I decided to bag it in and just walk away. So while this was going on, the property was listed by a real estate agent. They've tried for a couple of years. It's been through 5 realtors, and no one has been able to be successful in trying to sell it. The current realtor that has it now, that contract with them is up this August. I'm not sure what date it is, but they've been even trying to see if they can try to do a short sale with the primary lender. But my question was simply this for calling today. Since I have a second mortgage and they are the second lien holder on that mortgage, and I've been discharged of their debt as well as the first mortgage,
right,
would that second mortgage bank be able to open a separate civil suit against me for
no,
money?
I assume your bankruptcy would have listed their debts and would have said that the idea was for you to hand the property over to the lenders. And so they don't really have any recourse on you at this point as long as you hand the property over to them. Now, they're not literally going to want to take them. And, Paul, this would be a good example of a guy who probably could list this for a short sale, and the banks are going to be especially softened up now that the secondary mortgage is probably not going to get anything and probably has no recourse.
That's what I'm thinking. Just simply because the second would certainly rather have usually would rather have a little bit of something than a whole lot of nothing.
Yeah, so my thought on the matter is you're in a prime position for a short sale, because unlike a typical short sale scenario where you have a first and a second, and you have to get both of them to consent to the price because, they both have an interest in it at some point.
Mm-hmm.
Here, technically, the secondary guy, to the extent he's not secured, if the property is not worth very much, he really has no recourse anymore.
Okay. Well, if this is in the foreclosure process, which it is, and it...
Where'd he go? I think I lost him. I think I lost him and Paul. Gary, you're on the air.
Yeah, hi, Carl. Is Paul still there?
I lost Paul, but Shane will have him back on here in a second.
He'll jump in somewhere. Okay. I'm a property owner in Lancaster City. Been here for 32 years. We're facing a dual deadline of either tax sale on the property, which is probably going to come up in September or so, and we haven't paid mortgage to a home equity loan since March.
Okay.
And they've sent foreclosure notices already that look like the soonest they can foreclose is sometime in November. Our intent is to actually leave the area. We're going to relocate to Virginia.
Okay.
So I'm wondering what course of recourse the mortgage or the bank holding, what they will do if, in fact, the place gets sheriff sold out from under me and under them.
Right. Well, actually, they will actually go to the sheriff's sale. And quite frankly, what they usually do is bid on it because they're not going to let anybody else buy the asset out from underneath them.
Buy out their interest.
So they usually end up becoming the high bidder. The other interesting thing is at a tax sale, you buy things subject to the loans that are out there. So they, at the first level of tax sale, if it sells at the tax sale, they wouldn't lose their lien or mortgage against the property. So even if they didn't show up, they may end up with another owner, but they'd still have the right to foreclose or collect the mortgage. That said, like I said, they don't like to let that happen. And if it doesn't sell at the tax sale, then it goes to what's called a judicial sale, where it's sold free and clear of all liens. And Shane, is that Paul you're screening there? Oh, okay, we lost him. All right.
We're pretty sure the place needs a good bit of fixing up. We're living in it now. We've been here for 32 years and haven't done the upkeep. So, I mean, if you do an internet an internet value search, the place is valued at like $108,000 to $116,000, $120,000.
Right.
It ain't going to get anywhere close to that. I think probably it's going to need $30,000 to $40,000 put into it to bring it up to maybe even code or living standards. And I owe a $23,000 home equity loan. So it's like I'm just about ready to walk away from it and say, let you guys sort out what you want from it. You can have the property because I signed it over as collateral. You get what you can from it if you want it, or, the property taxes keep going higher. We're getting ready to be reassessed next year here in Lancaster City.
Right.
And that's going to push it even more. And it's like with my income at the moment, I can't maintain the property.
Gary, Larry, Jane, hold on. We got to go into the next hour here. Hold on a minute, guys, okay?
Yep.
I want to see if we can get Paul back on here. Hold on.
All right.